60 or the first 60 speakers from the affirmative and the first 60 speakers from the negative. That's it. Okay, lesson now. Okay, so as we all know, we have here the very hot topic, which is the death penalty. Now, the big issue here: are you in favor to revive the death penalty in the Philippines? We have the affirmative team to defend their side, and the negative one, brain, they're not in favor. Okay, let us start the introduction from the affirmative. Death penalty or capital punishment requires law enforcement to kill those convicted criminals who commit heinous crimes, which includes treason, hurricane, murder, rape, kidnapping, serious illegal detention, robbery with violence, destructive arson, drug-related and plunder. The death penalty is a state-sanctioned homicide where killing criminals are decided by multiple people with appropriate knowledge. Why are we agreeing with death penalty? Number one, without death penalty, criminals would become fearless and careless and they would commit horrendous crimes. Number two, there's a large illegal consumption of drugs here in the Philippines. Number three, it was to empower our criminal justice system. It's not just for Filipinos to have discipline, but also for foreigners who commit heinous crimes inside our country and violate the rights of our countrymen. Negative. Negative.
Do you believe that death penalty is a reasonable punishment for criminals rather than being in prison? Does this not threaten criminals to do heinous crimes, or trigger them to do more instead? Does death penalty really affect their criminal behavior? Death penalty is also known as the capital punishment. It is the criminal's punishment for his or her crimes. Many people believe that the execution of certain offenders affect criminals' behaviors, and that criminals who do not such actions after knowing they must face more than eternity. However, this idea is debatable. To my dear peers and fellow classmates, the real question is, does death penalty actually affect criminal behavior? Does the revival of this form of capital punishment bring good outcomes, or would it only worsen our nation or society?
Affirmative. We as a group strongly support the legalization and the reintroduction of death penalty in the Philippines. Our society is getting worse day by day. Those who commit crimes such as murderers, especially murderers and rapists, do such things because they are unafraid of our justice system. If we will have death penalty, now there's a reason to be afraid of. They don't deserve a second chance. They don't deserve to live because keeping any torturers, especially murderers and rapists alive, many people will be tortured, murdered, and raped. You are pleading here for a good purpose, because first of all, you will not be afraid if you do nothing wrong. We are protecting the lives of the innocent onward. If you don't have the death penalty, then what are you protecting here? The lives of the criminals? Negative.
Most people would think that the threat of the death penalty would result in lower crime rates, but that isn't the case. Based on most studies regarding this topic, they would disagree with the notion that the death penalty decreases crime rate, as studies based on countries such as the United States suggest the opposite. Based on the data from the FBI's crime report, states that abolishing the death penalty has a downward trend when it comes to murder and homicide rates, while states that still use the death penalty as punishment have homicide rates that are higher than their abolitionist counterparts. just look at this graph. As you can see, those who have abandoned the death penalty has gotten, those that have abandoned the death penalty has had lower murder and homicide rates throughout this decade. While the others that haven't abandoned them have significantly higher rates of homicide and murder than their counterparts. And even those that have a high amount of murder rates still fare better than those that don't. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, the death penalty was introduced in 1990, which was used to defeat the crime in the streets, since crime was rampant.
I think you can hear Joke here.
Which actually kind of worked out. But it went up again. Because they reduced the crime rate
I think you can hear Joke here.
which actually
On the
worked.
camera because it's like right next to me doing the sound to me. And I might have to like remove my mask when speaking.
But then, as soon as the administration changed and 6 out of 7 people were executed, it went up again to 111 in 1999. And also, based on the Supreme Court, when they reviewed the convictions for prisoners on death row and found from that 907 convictions, a majority, or 71.77%, or 651 of those convictions were false, and many of them were revised for their penalty, acquitted, and some got entirely cases dismissed. Just for that data alone, it is much more beneficial for everyone to abolish and prevent the revival of this morally wrong, irreversible, and heinous form of punishment that has consequences for everyone involved.
Okay, so let us see what or how are you going to take stand with the first issue of the revival of death penalty in the Philippines. Let us talk about the threat of execution that influences criminal behavior more effectively than imprisonment laws. Affirmative, what is your stand about this issue?
The threat of being executed will be a sufficient cause for a significant number to refrain from committing a heinous crime they had otherwise done. This is especially true when it comes to public executions. The purpose of such displays was to historically be to discourage individuals from defying by the laws or authorities, and sometimes attended to such events were heavily encouraged to show that we should not do what these people did, and to teach more people to abide by the law. In our modern civil society, executions are usually unpopular considering the fact that people benefit from it. Examples of these benefits are cases when used to for other purposes and the family of the victim can be justified.
Negative.
There is no conclusive proof that the death penalty acts as a better deterrent than the threat of life imprisonment. As someone who presided over many of Texas executions, former Texas Attorney General Jim
Should go like this.
remarked, "It is my own experience that those executed in Texas were not deterred by the existence of the death penalty law. I think in most cases, you'll find the murder was committed under severe drug and alcohol abuse. Therefore, we cannot say or prove that implementing the death penalty could basically stop people from committing mistakes, especially if the individual is under the influence of such substances. It may trigger them to do more offensive actions that to make their lives much more further and to appear more rebellious."
That is for verifying that imprisonment. Thus upon as a grade of it. That sentences would be an effective way to make people stop doing heinous crime because they fear death.
Poor people are also more likely to be death sentenced than those who can afford the high cost of private investigators, psychiatrists, and expert criminal lawyers. Indeed, capital punishment is a privilege of the poor, said by Clinton Duffy, a former warden of California's San Quentin prison. People may triggered instead to get caught to end up their lives and to end up their sufferings. Some individuals may even hope they will be caught and executed. It is not actually shocking for them since they are suffering enough due to poverty.
The death penalty is much better than the prison sentence, but the death sentence is less more effective than the prison. Because it will lessen the number of criminals in the police. Some people might be scared of death penalty, but other people are scared of
The Philippine justice system is fractured and lacking. This comes from issues such as lack of funds, insufficient amount of courts and staff, and the insanely long length of time it takes for the cases to be decided. Which basically means that in order for our justice system to be effective, it has to upgrade itself. And if we include the death penalty into the law, it's not only harder for those that are processing all the data and information required to execute those criminals, but also everyone else who are involved in this situation.
Okay, pause for a while. So since this is debate, you are entitled to convince our audience. But as we can see, where are the audience? What are they doing? Are they listening or are they just having their own conversation on their seats? Today is the day. Basically, you should be performing by now. Hindi na kayo dapat nagugulungan ng ganyan. Audience, dun kayo. Including you guys. Ito. Speakers should face the audience. You are about to convince the audience. You are not just entitled to read what is on the script. Let me just remind you, this is a debate. This is not a reading activity. Okay, next issue for the revival of death penalty in the Philippines. Okay, so as you can see, victims of violent crimes and their families have right to justice. Victims of violent crime and their families have a right to justice. Negative, what you can say, or what can you say about this issue?
Okay. Yes, affirmative, it is right that there is a right to justice. But the question is, how can we know that this is really justice? How can we know if this person has done it? If we're going to impose them a death penalty, and also when we're going to know if that person really did something wrong, because we all know that in the history of the Philippines, the process was too long. So if we give a death penalty to that person, how can we know if he or she did something wrong? Later on, we are putting justice to this person, but he or she is not really the culprit, right? We all know that in society, we kill those people that is in the lower scale, but we didn't kill people in a higher scale. Let's say there is a rape or crime happen. But the question is, did he do that in purpose? Or did someone told him to do that?
The death penalty can bring out some sort of closure or solace to the victim's family after a horrible, life-changing experience. Just like the Bulacan massacre where Mr. Dexter Carlos Sr.'s family dead, including the 5 family members, namely Estrella, wife, 30 years old, Aurin Dizon, mother-in-law, 53 years old, Donnie, son, 11 years old, Ella, 7 years old, and Dexter, 1 year old. Suspect of the killing admitted doing drugs. The family of the victim screams the death penalty as punishment for what happened. The death penalty needed for families to move on and not live in fear of the criminal getting out of prison and doing another serious crime.
If you kill someone else, don't you deserve to die too? Like an eye for an eye? There are alternative methods to punish the guilty, such as life in prison. We as humans do not have the authority to take someone's life. The death sentence is not the main deterrent to reintegration into society. When it comes to removing criminals from the streets, life in prison is equally as effective as the death penalty.
Every victim of a crime, especially heinous crime, deserves justice. Perpetrators should be sentenced according to the law of humans. Bringing someone to justice usually entails bringing someone to trial, making a conviction, and then deciding what is it that he or she is due as a punishment.
Why is the death penalty even necessary? If life in prison is an option. Therefore, the death penalty is like an escape from suffering. On the other hand, if there is no death penalty, the guilty party will be in prison until he reaches the appropriate age. Criminals with serious offenses should receive life sentences in prison, life rather than death penalty.
They do have rights. Those who have lost loved ones in terrible crimes have the right to see the person responsible held to account in a fair trial. Victims should be treated with compassion and respect for their dignity. They are entitled to access to the mechanisms of justice and prompt redress, as provided by national legislation for the harm they have suffered.
Currently, some death penalties can be required even when the person there in the 30s is innocent. Currently, here in Los Angeles, an innocent victim has been shot dead by the police because they think Ian is a drug runner. Ian is a special man. The during his funeral, hundreds of people are wearing Justice for Ian t-shirts to the colorblind. Even President Duterte even visited his family after 2 days. Why will the young man get shot even though he is innocent? Well, there's also footage of this event unfold. When he was in an alleyway minding his own business until the police arrived and shot him to death. Ian is not a drug runner. He's just a 17-year-old teenager who just wants to relax on her time. According to the police, 5,000 drug dealers or users are killed. I know for sure that a very, very tiny percentage are innocent people who die because of the wrong reason. And that small percentage includes Ian. The talk time of our war on drugs is a very dangerous project. Sometimes we might even kill the wrong person even though we try to get to explain what is that. Justice for Ian.
Okay, for the third issue, the death penalty is inherently cruel and irreversible. Again, death penalty is inherently cruel and irreversible. Negative, what is your stand about this?
Maganda naman.
I can learn that the death penalty is harsh,
Nakabanta.
but the argument is we know that it is inherently cruel by doing it. Our life is important. In the Philippines, we are very concerned about the life of the human child. What about the people that have morality, and he or she can choose his or her life?
The death penalty serves as the deterrent and lessens the number of crimes committed in the Philippines. Not everyone who committed crimes deserves to die, but some of the crimes under this capital punishment, such as rape and murder. There are criminals that are repeat offenders and without punishment for their offenses. They will be taking advantage of some innocent people. And also, the death penalty assures the safety of society.
Is the justice system at the hands of a few? Especially the lives of those people are based in your hands. So if you are not God, then why do we take the life of the people? Then this is where the role of psychology. That's why we have a Department of Health, Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD. And that's why
we have psychology on the side. We have medical institutions because we need these people need help. If we don't give them a chance or help them, it's such a waste. Then what is the sense of having the institution regarding help if we feel them are dead? So if we are not God, why are playing these
The inherently cruel and irreversible nature of the death penalty is necessary to ensure deterrence of crimes in the country, as it can show criminals, will be criminals, that their actions will have consequences, and that they cannot control it and stay within the eyes of the law than to break it. Of course, I'm not saying that all crimes should result in death penalty, like pickpocketing, shoplifting, and etc. However, the crimes that death penalty should take are the capital crimes, such as drug trafficking, genocide, kidnapping, human trafficking, and etc. This will as well deter offenders who believe they cannot be punished and will continue to do so. Deterring them from using the death penalty as a threat will ensure the safety of the people.
Reversible, first of all, it's irreversible. A person is convicted and then executed by the law. And later, another evidence emerged that victim, when committing a crime, would be prosecuted. The sentence is reversible. The earthly good will come because of it, since the person who has been acquitted is already dead. The death penalty does not give any punishment or correct any mistakes. The death penalty is the most severe punishment for a criminal offense. However, a criminal will be sentenced to death only if he or she committed serious crimes under the death penalty standard. Following the introduction of death penalty in the Philippines in 1992, our country switched to lethal injection as a method of execution, replacing the electric chair, firing squad, death by hanging, and other methods. Lethal injection is widely regarded as the unique alternative to previous methods of execution. The death penalty is frequently justified on the grounds that society has a moral obligation to ensure the safety and well-being of its citizens. By executing murderers, society can ensure that convicted killers do not kill again.
There is always a potential of killing an innocent person, making execution the ultimate irreversible punishment. A justice system will always be vulnerable to human error regardless of how advanced it is. The death penalty is both irreversible and irreparable, unlike prison sentences. The death penalty is usually reported by countries that carry out execution as a crime deterrent. This assertion has been frequently disproved, and there is no proof that the death sentence reduces crime any more than life in prison does. The right to life should not be granted to the court system. It is not required to use death penalty in order to prevent public from murderers who try to commit more crimes. Executing prisoners violates their right to life and denies them the chance to be rehabilitated and make future contributions to society.
Okay, fourth, second to the last issue. The death penalty goes against our most basic human right. And that is the right to life. Affirmative, what you understand about this issue, the right to life.
The death penalty goes against our most basic human right, the right to life. But how about those criminals who also violate their victims' human rights? Isn't there just for the family of the victim if the criminal took the life of their victim? The death penalty brings closer to the victim and their families. It's easy to say that it's inhuman, but if the same thing happened to one of your family members, it will be very hard for the families of the victim to can see the criminal leaving and think he might end up going out of jail after many years.
We would like to affirm the statement that our human rights lies within the idea of death penalty. We must remember that not only in the international scale, this basic human rights comes. It comes with us a bill and is part even of our own constitution located at the 1987 Philippines Constitution Article 3 Section 1, which states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. We must be treated equally before the law, regardless of our political, social, and economic status. If even even in our own constitution, it clearly defines the idea of death penalty on one way or another. Why do we have to revive it?
Why do we have to revive it? Affirmative. The first established death penalty laws dates as far as the 18th century BC. In the code of King Hammurabi of Babylon, historical records show that even the ancient primitive tribes utilized methods of punishing wrongdoers, including taking lives, to pay for the crimes that they committed. Death penalty has been used as a method of crime deterrence since the earliest society. And here in the Philippines, as of December 1993, President Ramos, the 10th President of the Philippines, administration reimposed death penalty, demonstrating details of horrendous crimes, including drugs and horrendous offenses. And most of all, it will protect the society. Without the death penalty, criminals would be careless and fearless. Criminals would learn nothing from their mistakes when they just got placed in jail. Some just get worse and commit crimes again when they got released.
Yes, it's true that it can protect our society, but after being aware of cases like a Filipino domestic worker was executed in Saudi Arabia after she was found guilty of murder, and for contemplation, a Philippine domestic worker convicted of murdering another Filipino domestic worker, we have seen how our government, through our immigration offices and consults, fought for our kababayan's life that deferred death penalty, especially that they reside in countries of which an eye for an eye is applied. Now, if our country considers that fact as okay, why do we consider reviving death penalty? In a way, it's quite absurd for us to relaunch a sentence to death here, while we still wait for humanity outside our borders. And now you want to implement death penalty in our country? What are we then, a set of hypocrites?
Not all killing is sinful, since there have been instances when God Himself gave the order to wage war. Since God never forces individuals to commit sin, the Israelites who obeyed His command to engage in combat did not violate any rules. Murder and wartime killing are not the same things. God has already planned out a life in death route for us. Some people will view it as a sinful if the person established harmful habits and may determine the execution is required. However, God claims that since He is the created life in death, blessings forces humanity in ignorance. Choosing to follow God's law will result in peace. Usually, many humans make choices that result in piety and righteousness. Instead, people tend to follow their instincts due to Satan's attitude.
The issue of Filipino domestic workers sentenced to death sentence was brought to the forefront. The issue of conditions endured by Filipino domestic workers in the Gold Country and Saudi Arabia's record, the issue of capital punishment. To this extent, the state death penalty mainly because of this claim, based on the local and international bylaws to back up with a scenario of which doesn't conform to our thinking alongside our actions and to the nation.
If you're wealthy and guilty, the death sentence system treats you better than if you're poor and innocent. Because of this, a startling number of innocent persons have received death sentences because of the unfairness it has jurisdicted upon us. The ability of the rich to pay their way through also creates a significant imbalance in favor of the privileged innocents, since the wealthy could afford to pay their way out while the latter could not, which already opposes the idea of human rights because of class discrimination and class power difference. So how could you possibly oppose that the death penalty should be considered when those who are not of guilty is considered as one because of the discrimination, misjudgments, and abuse of power?
Okay, the last issue, affirmative.
mistakes are sometimes made in law. What if someone is killed who is actually innocent? Based on equal justice initiative, the chance of executing an innocent person is 1 out of 8. For every 8 people executed, one person on death row was being forgiven because he is innocent. Also in the United States, it is people that have been innocently exonerated by DNA testing after serving in death row. It was impossible that the innocent can be executed because it requires DNA testing to be held before execution.
The death penalty is a flawed, expensive policy defined by bias and error. It targets the most vulnerable people in our society and corrupts the integrity of our criminal justice system. From police officers to family members of murder victims, people are recognizing that the death penalty does not make us safer. Firstly, death penalty system treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. As a result, a massive number of innocent people have been sentenced to death. The same factors drive wrongful convictions in non-capital cases and death penalty cases, including erroneous eyewitness identifications, false and coerced confessions, inadequate legal defense, false or misleading forensic evidence, false accusation or perjury by witnesses who are promised lenient treatment or other incentives in exchange for their testimony. Next, misconduct by police or prosecutors or both was involved in 79% of homicides, concealing evidence that casts doubt on the defendant's guilt is the most common type of misconduct, which includes police officers threatening witnesses, forensic analysts making test results, and prosecutors presenting false testimony. Third, the death penalty is mostly imposed on poor people who cannot afford to hire an effective lawyer. The failure to provide adequate counsel to capital defendants and people sentenced to death is a defining feature of the death penalty. Whether a defendant will be sentenced to death critically depends on the quality of his legal team more than any other factor. Lastly, the death penalty is supposed to be reserved for the most culpable, instead it's inflicted on the most vulnerable. It has been stated that capital punishment so long as it is imposed only on people who deserve it. The court has safeguarded the death penalty for certain groups of people who are not culpable enough to deserve execution.
So again, I will repeat the question. What if someone is killed who is actually innocent? So, when an innocent had happened to be executed under a second death row, it is possible that the government can issue a death gratuity to the persons who have lost their loved ones from their circle of death. So, what is that gratuity to be exact? This is a cash compensation to be given to families whose loved ones died in either natural disasters or people's who served on war. Now, in this case of a person that is innocent wrongfully executed, families who would mourn their loved ones would not only have their loved ones buried for free, but they will also be given a monthly cash benefit. Yes, the person executed may not be brought back to life, and it's not irreversible as the last topic says, but this consolation would be enough to help the family's burden.
The death penalty is discriminatory. It is often used against the most vulnerable in society, including the poor, ethnic, and religious minorities, and people with mental disabilities. Some governments use it to silence their opponents. Where justice systems are flawed and unfair trials, the danger that innocent people will be executed because of the errors in the criminal justice system is getting worse. A total of 69 people have been released from death row since 1973 after evidence of their innocence emerged.
You have the knowledge and technology to potentially stop the accusation of someone innocent. This is also the reason why we have forensic and autopsy to avoid mistaken identity or find the real culprit.
The question number 5 has the word mistake. In the past argument that my group has said, like argument number 1 said that the crimes had been made by the caused by survival, and it's either they were blamed. Argument number 2 is it really justice, and how do we know if the person is actually guilty? People are doing this so-called favor from those who has power to remove their dirty works. We have people who want to change and strengthen their morality.
Argument number 3, we do not play God. We're not playing God here. So why take the lives of the people? They can start another life. Or how do you revive someone who's innocent? That is the victim of death penalty. Argument number 4, we have the rights to live. Because it goes against our basic human rights. Our point shows that the Philippines has the imperfect laws. We should not revive death penalty because if there are an error in the law itself, why are we applying it to the person itself without proper process? The justice system itself is already unfair and it will take a long process. We could kill numerous innocent people, that's why we abolished death penalty. Because people could be innocent and they want to start their new life. I present the case of George Stephen, who is the first young person to be executed. He was falsely accused for the murder of 2 young girls, and he was interrogated for 10 minutes. Then the sheriff said that he was guilty because he said that they have proof and he confessed. But the truth is, he did not do it, and there is no eyewitnesses that allowed, there is no eyewitness that they allowed the boy to have for any lawyer. In the end, after 70 years, the boy was proven guilty. The boy was proven innocent. I compared the case of Trajano, which is during the martial law. Trajano was an activist and a student. He attended Ime Marcos' event. Then he asked a question that is directly to her. In the end, he was beaten by her bodyguards, and martial law at that time is their punishment is death penalty. We saw these cases that they have unfairness, and they are both falsely accused, and the people who has higher power or higher position, they use their powers to abuse it, to make apa to the mababa. Yun lang po.
Like I said, those cases happened 70 years ago, right? And today, due to the modernization of the world, we have the knowledge and technology to know those who really committed those horrendous crimes, right?
Okay, give one example of the high-end technique that we're using right now to determine who's the killer or who's the
lie detector test, ma'am.
Lie detector test?
Yes. To determine for the criminal to tell the truth, and he cannot deny that he did the crime.
Negative.
I have the case of Earl, which is he used the lie detector and he committed that he did the crime of killing a white person or person. Then he did a DNA test which resulted that he was actually innocent.
In this case that you were saying, the case of Earl, may I ask?
Wait, tapos na. Sige, pagkano natin dyan
Okay, in this case you were saying, may I ask what year that happened?
1970.
What year is the date?
Well,
it's year 2023, meaning to say,
no, wait,
meaning to say that the technology back then was less efficient than we have today.
He did the DNA test in the 20th century, so it's more advanced than before. He was released 17 years before he was proven innocent. So what year na ba yun? 2020 na.
So the DNA test what happened in the 21st century, right? 21st century.
Wait. Uy,
And the people were able to determine that he didn't kill the person, right? And then what? Okay.
I don't know.
mga studies ng mga tao if ever man na ipapat ba ng dagdag.
Sabi ni Lord.
So we are talking about accuracy here of evidences to determine whether death penalty is to be applied or not, right? Okay. Now, based on our topic during the debate, could you please give us an example of what you call this? Paraan ng pagbitay.
Hangin.
Hangin. Garote hangin. Lethal injection. One example that had gone to the lethal injection later sa garay. Verdict is by ring. What else? Electric chair or Celia Electrica. How about Dr. Jose Rizal? Baril. Ano baril? Firing squad. Those are the examples. It's okay. Good job in taking injections. Yes!
Tingin sa camera. Sir, paano pa yung ano po? Sharing dito. Apo.
I think collect the notebook.
Natapos din. Yeah, natapos tayo, boy. Natapos din. Wala na. Natapos din. Natapos na din. Tapos na din. Okay na. What's that? Ah, wait. Tapos na tayo, tol.